Welcome back to the Fast Break on WEGL 91.1 FM. We're going through our preseason power rankings. We started this project a week ago. We've just talked about the Detroit Pistons and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and now we're moving on and giving you a season outlook for the Orlando Magic. This is a team that went 25-57 last year. They went 13th out of 15 Eastern Conference teams. And with their first pick, number 5 overall, they took Mario Hezonja, that European talent that they expect to be, kind of a 3-and-D guy who can also attack the rim for them. Ryan, your initial thoughts on the Magic going forward?
Very young team across the board. You look at their starting lineup: Elfrid Payton, the second-year man out of Louisiana Lafayette. Victor Oladipo now in his third year out of Indiana. Tobias Harris, I think about 4th or 5th year coming out of Tennessee. And then Channing Frye is a veteran, but I'm not sure that he would start over Aaron Gordon yet. I think that's a toss-up. And then Nikola Vucevic, who's still very young in the league as well. So this is a young and talented team. I think what separates them from the Timberwolves is that they are a year or two farther along and that all their guys have been in the league at least a couple years.
Yeah.
But I will say, conversely, I don't think that their ceiling is as high as the Timberwolves. I think when you look at Wiggins and Anthony Towns and Tyus Jones' potential, I think it would be greater than what the Magic have here. And so if you were looking in the future, I would take Timberwolves over Magic. But for now, with a little bit more experience, I think you got to go Magic.
Yeah, if I'm a person who's wanting to become a fan of the NBA, and you're asking what team should I root for, this would be a fun team. Like if I wasn't already a Celtics fan and had been for many years, this is probably a team that I would be looking at because they're not going to win right now. They're not going to win this year. They're going to be okay. This team, if things fall their way, this team could wind up in the playoffs. But that is a big, big if. But this team is so much fun. Elfrid Payton had a rough start, I would say, to the season last year. But after All-Star break, after he got to go and hang out in New Orleans and have fun at the dunk contest and just be there for All-Star weekend, he came back and was putting up – he had triple-doubles last season as a rookie. He had a handful of them and was putting up consistently double-doubles in points and assists. He's a hustler. I like him. He's my favorite player on this team. Victor Oladipo, I don't know. I just keep waiting on Oladipo to be better than he is. And every year I'm like, is this the year? Is this the year he's going to make the jump? And I just don't know. But Hezonja, I thought, was a great draft pick for them. Tobias Harris, I thought he was key for the Magic to re-sign him if they wanted to keep this young team together and building for the future. Aaron Gordon, and then Vucevic down low. I think that is a good young core, and this team has a lot of positives. You finally get Ben Gordon and his big contract off of your books. And so you have some room to play with in the next couple of years as far as cap goes. So I like this team. I know they're still one of the lesser teams in the league, but this is a fun team for me to watch.
Yeah, that's a really good point you made there, Chris, about talking, if you're a fan that's just getting acclimated and saying, hey, I want to start becoming a fan of an NBA franchise and kind of growing with them, I think the Magic are a good option for you to choose right away. They're a very young team. You talked about Elfrid Payton and Oladipo and Tobias Harris, and then Aaron Gordon, who Ryan mentioned and you mentioned as well, a guy that was plagued by injuries a season ago, and it's going to be exciting to see, where he goes. When he came back in the second half of the season, he really started to progress as an NBA talent. When I was reading up on the Magic before we, did this show, an interesting stat that popped out to me is that in those last 15 to 20 games, Oladipo actually was averaging over 20 points a game and averaging, right at 6 assists and a couple rebounds. And so I do think Oladipo is taking his game to the next level, and he can, I think that Oladipo could contend for a spot on the All-Star team this year. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
On the All-Star team?
On the All-Star
I think that's a stretch.
I think it is too.
I really feel like Oladipo is going to surprise a lot of people, turn a lot of heads, entering his third year in the league. I really do think like he can make the All-Star team.
Yeah, JJ, you just caught me off guard there. I wasn't ready for that. But, there's so many great guards in this league. in the East, it's definitely more doable than the West. I mean, the West, you can't go somewhere without finding a great guard. He's got that potential. He could break through. I can see it, but I would think he would need stuff to go right for him, like having Dwayne Wade injured or something like that.
And also, I think it hurts, that he does play in a smaller market like Orlando, and people aren't going to be watching him as much.
Absolutely.
And know, hey, I need to vote Oladipo into the All-Star game. But in pure talent, I really do feel like he's going to surprise a lot of people, turn a lot of heads. And then when you talk about guys they bring over, we mentioned Hazonia. C.J. Watson leaves Indiana. He comes over and he joins this Orlando Magic team. He's going to help them at the point guard position. And then another guy, Shabazz Napier, who was drafted by the Heat a year ago, he's traded over to Orlando. So he flip-flops Florida teams down there. And it's going to be exciting to see what he's able to make of his opportunity in Orlando.
I have one main concern with this Orlando Magic team, and it goes back to what I was talking about with the Timberwolves. I know I just can't stop talking about the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have some veterans to help their young players grow. Outside of C.J. Watson, who you can argue is not that big of a deal as a mentor, I mean, they don't have anybody to help the growing pains. And so could that benefit them? Yeah, I mean, maybe they could grow together and learn from their mistakes together and really form chemistry out of that. But most of the time, you would like some veteran players to be able to help the progression along.
And look, it's something that you were talking about earlier, Chris, too, when you look at these teams. Another thing that we have to consider when we talk about Orlando is the fact that Scott Skiles
That's what I was about to say.
is coming in with his first season. Jacques Vaughn is out as head coach. So we'll have to see how Scott Skiles and his system translates into Magic basketball.
Yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to talk about before we got off this Magic topic was that Scott Skiles was coming in to be the new head coach in Orlando, and I'm excited about that move. I think that is a good move for them for the future, and I think he's going to do good things with that program. Next, we're going to move on to another Eastern Conference team, a team who during the 2013-14 season had a great season. They finish up making it into the playoffs, but they run into the Miami Heat in the first round and get steamrolled by them when LeBron in his last year with the Heat. And things were looking up. Last year, they were supposed to be the Charlotte Hornets. They were back with all the new rebranding, and everybody was so hyped up. Fans were so excited about this team last year, and they just never found it. This team was I was so excited. I liked Lance Stevenson so much. I was happy to see him go, and for him to play next to Kemba Walker and Al Jefferson. I thought that team was going to be good. I thought they were in the Eastern Conference for sure. They were going to be a team to look out for, and they just never figured it out. They finished 11th in the Eastern Conference, far beyond what I was thinking they would do, and so they make some changes this offseason. They get rid of Lance Stevenson, trade him to the Los Angeles Clippers. They bring in, from that trade, they bring in Spencer Hawes. They signed Jeremy Lin, who just left the Lakers in free agency. They get Nick Batum in a trade with the Trailblazers, but they give up their young, talented prospect in Noah Vonleh. You get Jeremy Lamb over from the Thunder. Aaron Harrison, you sign him as a undrafted free agent. Draft Frank Kaminsky, and also signed Tyler Hansbrough.
Psycho T
is coming back to his home state of North Carolina. This team is, I don't know. This team is, the only reason I have this team above Orlando is because they have veteran talent. Al Jefferson and Kemba Walker, I believe, are enough to help this team win more games than the Orlando Magic would. And I also think that head coach Steve Clifford is one of the better coaches in the entire league. So this team is still not going to be good. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but that was my reasoning when I was trying to decide between the Hornets in this spot or the Magic, and I went with the Hornets just because of the veteran status of both their players and their coach. But Ryan, what do you think about this Hornets team?
There is so much you could talk about with this Hornets team. There's so much, and I'm going to try and go through it as quickly as possible because I know JJ is a big Hornets fan, Buzz City, so he gets last say. But I think there's a lot of potential in this team. Once again, I feel like every season they could be about the 7th or 8th best team in the East, and then If they still stay healthy, they are. If they don't, they don't. Because I wrote this down while we were talking here, and Kemba Walker missed 20 games last year. Al Jefferson missed 17 games last year. They finished 5 out. If both those were healthy for 20 more games, they might have been able to make up those 5 games, or they at least would have had some more chemistry and made a run at it. They've got. I really think they have a chance to be the 8th or 7th seed in the East, but they've got to stay healthy. And then also I've got to mention, with the trade that they didn't make with the Boston Celtics and wanted Frank Kaminsky that badly. I mean, Michael Jordan, I love him to death, but he so far has not been a very good, I don't want to say owner, because he's not only an owner, he's kind of he's the general manager in a way of player personnel, and he's just not done well with player personnel.
Rich Cho is the guy that currently holds that position as general manager. And Ryan, you're right, with someone that has the prestige and, someone that carries so much weight like Michael Jordan does have, it's hard for Rich Cho to make those decisions that he wants to. Guys, Rich Cho was the general manager, or right under the general manager of Sam Presti when Oklahoma City drafted Westbrook, KD, and James Harden in those consecutive years. And so whenever we got him 4 seasons ago, I was super excited that, hey, Rich Cho can kind of turn this franchise around, but he really hasn't been able to do much. When I look at this team, there's just a lot of turnover from last year's team. When you look at Bismack Biyombo signing with the Raptors, I think that's going to prove to be one of the bigger losses, of this team. And I've talked about it before, growing up in Charlotte and how much Bismack Biyombo meant to the team in terms of defensive rebounding and blocking and everything he brought and the hustle that he brought, and not being there anymore. Gerald Henderson, a guy that's been with the Hornets his whole career, he's traded to the Trailblazers. And then Lance Stevenson, like you said, Chris, I kind of felt like they gave up on the Lance Stevenson era, that experiment that they had. I thought they gave up with him too soon. And I'm just hoping that Steve Clifford can continue to progress he is talented. I like him as a coach, but he can always get better. Everybody can always get better. And then Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, I would love to see if he can take it to the next level.
Hit a jump shot.
The jump shot needs to improve when you talk about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. And then when the guys Nick Batum, Jeremy Lin, Frank Kaminsky, Tyler Hansbrough, the new faces, Jeremy Lamb, the new faces in Charlotte, I think, are going to help a lot. And another good point you made, Chris, was talking about, last year was the first season as the Hornets from the Bobcats, and there was a spike in ticket sales right away just because they changed the name and the branding that happened. So that's a great thing when you have support around you, and Buzz City is as active as it is. My area of concern is Kemba Walker. You talked about him missing 20 games last season. I think that with all the hype that he had coming in and the national championship he won at Connecticut, he kind of, in my mind, he's kind of not played up to his expectations. This is a guy that's a 32% three-point shooter, just under 40% from the field, averages only 16 points a game when his team needs him to score more than that. And I really want to see Kemba take it to the next level because his contract's close to expiring.
Can I mention one quick thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I just wanted to mention, there's Michael Jordan, obviously, went to North Carolina, in a North Carolina franchise. 3 players from North Carolina. And this is back to his skill as directing player personnel. 3 North Carolina players on the bench: Marvin Williams, P.J. Harrison, Tyler Hansbrough. None of which essential to the team. I just wonder if MJ is a little bit too busy getting some of his own school's players. I mean, just to throw that out there. I don't mind. I'm a Carolina fan, but just got to throw that out there.
Yeah, I think Michael Jordan's ability as a basketball player far outweighs his ability as a owner / GM, president of basketball operations, whatever his title is there with that organization. But we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we're moving over to the Western Conference to talk about 2 teams there who we think are maybe fringe playoff contender teams this year if things roll their way. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Weagle 91.1.